Welcome to Biology My Passion. I am Soumya Harikrishna. We are learning the chapter Organisms and Population, and in the previous video we discussed the introductory part and also different abiotic factors and their significance. Today we are going to learn the response of organisms to changes in these abiotic factors. All the factors that we discussed in the previous videos are very important for the survival of every organism. But these factors are not constant all the time. They vary according to the season or the local conditions. So in such a situation, organisms have to adapt to that given particular environmental condition. So during evolution, organisms are evolving. So naturally, by this time, all the organisms must have evolved to adapt to their environment or changes in the environment. But still, the changes in these abiotic factors are stressful to different organisms. Why? Because higher organisms have developed a constant internal environment that is called a homeostasis. So homeostasis means maintenance of a constant internal environment in terms of body temperature and osmoregulation of their body fluids. For example, mammals and birds. We have a constant body temperature. Wherever we go, our temperature is not going to change. It remains the same. Whereas the amphibians and reptiles they are cold-blooded animals. They cannot maintain their internal body conditions, but it keeps varying with the changing environmental conditions. Why is it so? When mammals and birds could adapt, why couldn't amphibians or reptiles? It is beautifully explained in your textbook with the help of an analogy. That is, during summer months, different parts of this world, they experience very severe summer. Especially nowadays we are hearing in northern states, the summer is very severe and the temperature is going high and the scorching sun is causing a lot of damage. And also in various different countries, including the Middle East, we have very high temperature or very severe summer. So during this season, we are using air conditioners or air coolers to maintain our environment suitable for us. Because this maintenance of environment is artificially done. We know we are efficient at our work at an optimum temperature. For example, if the temperature is 25 degrees Celsius around, I am very comfortable to do my work. Actually now I am in Muscat. So here the environment condition is different. Now the temperature is very high, now we have summer here and it's very hot. So during this month, we cannot stop doing our work though the temperature outside is going high. So naturally, we have air conditioners inside the rooms, inside the classrooms, inside the vehicles, inside the shopping malls. So everywhere these air conditioners are keeping us cool, so we don't feel that difficulty while doing our work or doing our daily activities. But when we go out in the sun, it is difficult. But think of a condition where a small village, where people are not able to afford to buy air conditioners or coolers. For them, the summer condition is actually affecting their daily schedule. They may not be able to do the work like how they used to do in normal conditions. And usually what do? They sweat profusely to adjust with the temperature or bring evaporative cooling of their body. Here we know that people in Middle East or Gulf countries or any other foreign countries, they are able to use these conditions like artificial means to cool down our temperature only because of the presence of air conditioner or cooler. So they should be able to afford to that. That means we should have money to afford to that. The entire country should have economic status high in order to keep the environmental condition favorable for all the people. But whereas in other countries or developing countries, when the temperature is high, the people are struggling. So it may lead to even death due to sunstroke. So all people are not able to afford to buy it. In this particular analogy, we are considering money equivalent to energy. So those people who are able to buy these ACs or afford to pay the electricity bill for running this AC continuously, they are like the warm-blooded animals or the higher animals who can maintain a constant internal environment. Those animals, they have enough energy to maintain that. Instead of money, they have energy to maintain that. Whereas In the case of the poor people who cannot afford to this, they don't have money. The same way amphibians or reptiles, they don't have enough energy to maintain a constant internal environment. We know the reason. They have a partially chambered heart, whereas we have a 4-chambered heart well separated, right? They have 3-chambered heart. So all these we learned. So now let us discuss what are the types of responses animals do when they are having stressful environmental conditions. The responses are regulate, confirm, migrate and suspend. The first response is regulate. Regulate, as the word indicates, we are regulating a constant temperature. This is what I mentioned about the mammals and birds or the higher organisms or active animals. They can maintain their body conditions constant, internal body conditions constant. That means the temperature remains constant, and also they have the ability to do the osmoregulation of their body fluids. The osmotic concentration also remains constant. So to a greater extent they can survive in various stressful conditions. So we can see animals living in Sahara Desert or Antarctica where the temperatures are very high or low, but still those animals are successful to live there because of these adaptations or the evolution that they have acquired during the course of the time. But most of the organisms, except mammals or birds, some lower invertebrate species or vertebrate species have also got this ability. But most of the mammals are regulating their body temperature the same way we do. We know that when the outside temperature goes up, we sweat profusely. Sweating is a mechanism to bring down the body temperature cool. How? Because when the sweat is coming out in the form of water droplets, it will be evaporating using the temperature taken from our body. So that's called a evaporative cooling. So any part of your body is sweating, if you just touch, it is very cold because evaporative cooling brought down the temperature. The opposite is happening during the winter season. When the temperature is going very low around us, we shiver. Shivering is a mechanism to generate heat or increase the body temperature. So both these ways the higher organisms are able to maintain their constant environmental conditions, but plants do not have the ability to maintain a constant internal environment. So different means they are adapting to regulate maybe physiological response or a behavioral response. Physiological means what? The changes are happening inside our body. Sometimes by means of behavioral changes also organisms regulate their body conditions. Now the second way of response is conform. Conform means that we are adjusting with that or we are agreeing with that, conforming with that. So 99% of the organisms and all the plants are coming under these conformers because they do not have the ability to maintain a constant body environment, that is temperature or osmosis. So why? Because they don't have enough energy for doing that. Their body temperature keeps changing with the external environment. And again, osmoregulation also changes with the ambient temperature around. We know thermoregulation is actually an energetically expensive process. That means heat loss is a function of surface area. We know, suppose there is a wet cloth. If you are just crumbling it and keeping, it will take more time to evaporate or become dry. But if you spread out, it evaporates water fast and it is getting dry faster. What is the reason? Surface area. All the surface in contact with the environment, evaporation is more. So if we have more surface area, heat loss is also high. You know, when we are talking about large organisms or big organisms, big animals, they have a smaller surface area compared to body volume. Remember, first when here you might think, okay, large organisms have large surface area, right? No, we are comparing with the body volume. Compared to what is inside, their exposure to outside is less. Think of an elephant. It is a huge organism, but inside complexity is also high. So everything inside is not in touch with the external environment. So their surface area is less compared to their body volume. Whereas small birds like shrews or hummingbirds, they are very small, tiny. Their internal also there is less complexity. So what happens? Or the surface area is what means every part is exposed kind of. So surface area compared to body volume is very high in smaller organisms like these birds. That is why in colder regions we do not find small birds like shrews or hummingbirds. So this is a very important question for your board examination. Why don't we find small birds in the or animals in the polar regions? polar regions the temperature is low, then the heat thermoregulation is an energetically expensive process, and the surface area compared to body volume is high for small organisms. Loss or heat gain is a function of surface area. So when the surface area is high, they may have to spend a lot of energy for bringing down the temperature. That's why these organisms are not found in the polar regions. But there are certain kind of organisms, they regulate up to a particular period of time, but beyond that they will conform. Such organisms are called partial regulators. The next two types of responses that we are going to study are migrate and suspend. These two are actually happening when the stressful condition is localized. That means it is only in the local habitat of that particular organism, and it is for a short period of time. It's going to change, not like a polar region where it is throughout the year it is cold or like that. This is only for a short period of time, only in that locality. So what can they do? They can just move out of that location for some time, right? And come back when the conditions are favorable. So that is called migration. So in migration, usually birds migrate or some fish migrate. So birds usually migrate during very stressful condition. They fly long distances, kilometers, or they move from one continent to another. For example, Kilado National Park in Rajasthan hosts thousands of migratory birds coming from Siberia. We know Siberia is in Russia, it is very cold country. So from there, all these way they are coming to Rajasthan to get the favorable condition. But after that, they go back. So in human analogy, we can say that those who are staying in Delhi, we know that in Delhi summer is very scorching or very difficult. So those who are able to buy ACs and other conditions, they adjust with that. Economic status is even higher, they can think of going for a trip to other countries where it is cold. So if they have enough money to afford, they can go to Shimla or Manali, Kulu and all to have a colder weather. Or if they have even better position, they can go to Switzerland or other countries just like a trip to spend these unfavorable conditions. But for poor people, can they think of this? No, whatever be the condition, they have to remain there. So it is all matter of the availability of energy. The last type of response is suspend. Suspend means what? We are suspending certain activities. That means for some period of time when the conditions are stressful, activities are suspended, then it will resume once the conditions are favorable. That means we are stopping the activities. In case of plants or fungi or bacteria, we know they form thick-walled spores. The spores can tide over unfavorable conditions, and on the arrival of suitable conditions, the spores can germinate to form new plant or bacteria or fungi. The same way, angiosperms produce seed, or gymnosperms also they produce seed. We know seeds also can go into a dormancy state till the moisture and other favorable conditions are available. Then they replenish or they germinate to become the new plant. Or need not be seed all the time. Some vegetatively propagating parts also will remain as such under the soil, but onset of favorable condition, they grow into new plant or the next generation. But when it comes to animals, those animals which cannot migrate, migration is a kind of behavioral response. So those animals which are not able to migrate, they will undergo a condition of suspension, means they suspend their activities. For example, bear. Bear goes into hibernation during winter. When it is extreme cold outside, they hibernate, means winter sleep, to escape in time. The same way, fish or snails, they undergo estivation or summer sleep to avoid desiccation or heat related problems. But there are zooplanktons in water. They are microscopic animals. What do? They are actually suspending their activities or developmental stages. That is called a diapause. We know in the remote and all, or in the computer, we have a pause button. So when we are watching a video, we can pause it, and whenever we want, just click it, it will play from where it is stopped. That is called a pausing. Okay, so these zooplanktons also, they are not going to sleep like the other animals, but they are just suspending their developmental activity. Means they are not going to the next stage of development during unfavorable conditions. Once the favorable conditions come, they will just go to the next developmental stages. So suspension is a kind of adaptation where diapause is found in zooplankton. Okay, so these are the different types of responses. Hope you understood these concepts very well. If you like my videos, please like, share and subscribe to my channel Biology My Passion.